And we are live. Maybe I should pull my microphone down here so that this actually works. I am having a lot of fun today, and yeah, I'm looking forward to doing another Q&A. Turn off the phone because it's sending notifications. Oh, you're live. Look at that. That's surprising to me that I'm live. I didn't know that. So if any of you have any questions, go ahead and leave them in the chat, and I will try and get to as many as I possibly can in the next hour or so, or as long as it takes. If I don't get to your question and you see they went by it, feel free to post it again. Or if you can start it with question, that would be very helpful, as I don't, it's easy for me to skip over them. And I have to say, I'm sorry, I'm going to butcher your name. I'm going to try, but I'll still butcher it. Oh well. So if you have any questions, go ahead and leave them in the chat and I will get to them. One that was sent in a little earlier is from Scott Pearson. When making a chisel holder or rack, I'd be concerned about the tips of the chisels resting on the bottom of the holder. Would you recommend the holder be slightly longer? Basically, the rack I have, it's about 4 inches tall, and the chisels recess into it, and the chisels actually sit on the bottom of the rack. If I didn't have kids in the shop, I would leave the bottom open and just let the chisels hang out the bottom. I don't have any problem with that at all. I have sharp things all over the place, and I have to be careful of other things, so that's not a problem. But with having kids around, yeah, I try to protect the blades as much as possible. So what I ended up doing is I cut a dado or a groove and slid it down in, and the tip actually rests on the bottom of the slot. I don't have any problem with that, because the very first thing I'm going to do when pulling it out of the slot is put the tip into wood. So it's not an issue, and the weight of the chisel is I've never had any problem with it. If that is something that concerns you, then all you have to do is make the rack longer so that it rests on the tang and not on the tip. But yeah, I have no problem with them resting on the tip. I know the purists out there are going to have issue with that, and oh well, everyone's a little different. Hey, the duck is in the house. How's it going, Ducksworth? Like seeing you around here. You are one of my patrons, and thank you for that. So if any of you have questions, go ahead and leave them, and I will slowly get to them. I've been working in the kitchen today, and I'm kind of thankful for this because it gives me a chance to take a break. I've been putting in the hardwood flooring and putting it all in by hand. I have 9 rows in so far, and I have 41 total to go. So I have another 32 rows to put in, and they're taking a little less than 25 minutes per row to put in. So I'm figuring I have, what is it, another... I got a while more to do. I'm hoping I can get it all done today. If not, I'm going to hit it tomorrow morning and finish it up then. But yeah, it's going to be tight to get it done, because my wife is actually coming back home today, so I'd like to have the floors down so she can look at them and go, but then that means that the next few days I'm going to have to basically hold off on anything happening on the floors, because I'm going to be putting in epoxy into all of the knot holes, all of the defects, and that's going to take 2 coats to fill them completely. I'm hoping I can do that one day. I got the fast set, so I should be able to work that through. And then I'm going to plane it all down, smooth it out, and then put on 5 coats of water locks. 5 is a lot, but it's a floor, and it's going to see a lot of abuse, so I'm looking forward to that. So yeah, there's going to be several days where nothing can happen on the floor because the water locks is curing, and the house is going to smell like water locks. So yeah, it's going to be fun. Wow, a lot of other people coming in here. Lemongrasspicker, good to have you here. Tracy Keaton, can you build a drop-down work table strong enough? A drop-down work table strong enough to hold a 12-inch compound miter saw. Any ideas? I'm not quite sure what you mean by drop-down, unless you're talking about something you can fold up. There are many ways to do that. Actually, I had one that I used to make. I used to have. And basically the top was a 4x6, and then on either end I had legs that folded up underneath it, and the saw was just literally clamped to this 4x6, and that worked great. And I could fold that up and take place. I think I eventually put wheels on the end, but I got rid of that a while ago. So yeah, if you want to add more information that might be able to answer your question. Hope that does. TJ's Woodworking, good to have you in the house. Michael Robinson, I've watched live streaming, thought something else. Sync to YouTube. Yeah, cool. Good to have you here. If you have any questions, if you could put like question at the beginning, that just makes it a little easier for me to pop it out, because a lot of people like to say hey, or there's other chat going on, so I don't want to have to read through that to try and find the questions. But yeah, let me know. I got to close the door of my furnace kick going. The fun of being in the basement. I've got the air conditioner, the washer, the dryer, and other things. Luke LeBas. French is not my strong suit. Sorry, Luke. Would you still be doing that challenge where you build something worth only a chisel? Will you still be doing that challenge? Oh, sorry, I remember that wrong. Will you still be doing that challenge where you build something with only a chisel? Yes, it is on my list. And I put out a video a while ago saying I'm going to do it as soon as I finish the bench, I think. And then I go to the shop, and now I'm in the middle of the kitchen project. Yes, I'm going to be building a box out of firewood using only a chisel. Eventually, I want to build a stool using only a chisel from firewood. But yes, that will be coming up soon. So I'm hoping to do that as soon as the kitchen is done, so another week or two. That is from Luke. Thank you. Also, if you aren't watching this live, I am going to be putting in all of the questions down in the comments with a timestamp so that you can track them there. So that's why I stop every moment and add them into the list so that I can keep track of them. Ray Olson asks, looking to restore a bunch of old tools from Uncle. Any advice that I may have overlooked? I have several videos on restoring old tools. The first thing I would ask is, are you wanting to just get the tool working? Are you wanting to make it look good? Are you wanting to restore it to factory defaults? And each of those are going to be a very different differences, because if you're wanting to do the full restore like the collectors do, that's going to take a lot more time, depending upon how you want to do it. If you want to actually redo the Japanning, if you want to maintain it just the way it is and keep the historical value of the dings and dents that have been into it. My preference is a functional restore. I like to make it look clean. If the Japanning or paint on it is decent, I'll leave it alone. But if it's really cracked up, I like to strip it all off with a sandblaster. It's my choice. I've also used chemical paint removers in the past. And then paint it. And that's why most of my planes look blue. Yes, they are Stanley planes. They are the planes that I've done a complete restore on. I paint them blue. I like that. But everyone's a little different. But yeah, definitely, if you have any specific questions, let me know. I don't know what you have, so I don't know what you've overlooked. Sorry. Hey, Brad's in the house. Bleaked Woodworks. Kurt Davis has a question. I recently made a mallet from an oak 4x4 and hickory for the handle. How heavy should a mallet be? Do you use several sizes? Yes, I use several sizes. Different mallets for different weights. My main joinery mallet is I would have to say it's about 1.5 pounds. It's a fairly heavy wooden hammer, a wooden mallet. My finishing mallet, the head is a little bit lighter. It's made out of cherry as opposed to burly white oak. So that one's probably only about 1 pound. Yeah, different things. I mean, my small chisel mallet is just a couple ounces. So depends on what you want. If you want a big hefty joining mallet, 1.5 pounds to 2 pounds is a good weight. You don't want something overly heavy, just because your wrist gets worn out. I do have several metal head mallets that have wooden caps on the ends. Those weigh a good bit more. Those are like 2.5 to 3 pounds, and those are good for when I really want to move something. And the wooden face protects it, so they're not going to ding up things quite as easily. But yeah, for most joinery mallets, about 1.5 pounds to 2 pounds is where I like it. I don't like to go too much more than that. Kevin from France, how you doing? I just got back from an auction, missed out on a Stanley. Oh, I hate when you miss those. It's from the duck. You never know when those deals are going to come around, and when they do, you got to jump at them. Steinar Manneråk. Sorry, I butchered that one. I asked you late last session about using pine for workbench. I got my pine. It's now drying in my office and dehumidifier. Is that overkill? No, honestly, if you're getting pine from the big box store, it is going to be wet, and drying it out is a good thing. What you want to do is, whatever room you are keeping it in, try and find some piece of wood in there that is at the ambient percentage in that room. I know in my shop, pine, the percentage that I keep my pine at is like 2% of moisture, which is almost nothing, because down here in the basement in the air conditioning, everything is very, very, very dry. And so I don't have any problem with that because it's constantly air conditioned. So my moisture level stays very, very similar. If you're going to be working in a garage and the temperature swings wildly, you never know until you get into it. For like 2x4s and pine like that, drying quickly is not a huge issue. You're going to get a lot of twist and cupping, but most of the time with pine, you can bend that out. So no, that is not overkill. Drying it is good. Percentage-wise, you're going to have to know what yours is. So try and find something that's been in this space for a long time, and measure its percentage level, and then get your pine close to that, and that should help you out. Yeah, hope that answers your question. Let me add this to the list. 0. The duck has a question. How do you store your rasps and files? That is a very good question, because I have not found a method that I really like yet. Right now, I have them in a rockler hanging thing that it works, but I don't really like it. You don't want them to be rubbing against each other, and so it's best if they all have little slots individually. What I would like to eventually make is like I have for my chisel rack, but with all the rasps and files in it, so that each thing has its own slot. But that's a lot of slots and a lot of work for it. I don't know if I'm going to do that. I might end up sewing a leather hanging rack that they can all fit into. The problem I have with the rockler one is the pockets aren't quite deep enough, and so the rasps all hang out, and it's not quite as stable as I want. So yeah, I don't know. I'm probably going to be making a leather rack that hangs on the wall that they can all slide in their own little pocket. But I don't know, I might break down and make a rack much like for my chisels. So I guess I haven't answered your question because I don't know what it is yet. Oh, sorry. My nose is plugged with dust from this construction. It's been fun. I'm almost done with it, and I'm looking forward to having a kitchen and a living room again. Question from Lemongrasspicker. How much does your workbench change weight? Just curious. How much does your workbench change weight? Sorry, man. I think you're gonna have to resubmit that. I'm not quite sure what you mean by how much does it change weight. My bench doesn't exactly change weight. So I don't know. Yeah, it's heavy. After you use Michael Scott, have you ever thought about holding a small group classes? I have thought about that, and now that my shop is starting to kind of fill out, it's looking more like a possibility, and I would like to do that. So I might actually do something for the local people here soon and say, hey, come over, we're going to build something. Especially with having 3 benches in the shop and 6 vices, we can have several people working at the same time. So I might, but I don't know. It would be fun though. Do you have a video on a number 80 card scraper plane setup? Yes, the cabinet plane. I have a video on sharpening it, how to use it. I have several of them. If you search for Wood by Wright cabinet scraper or Wood by Wright Stanley number 80, both of those should come up in the search engine. Oh, my nose is so plugged. Why can't I breathe? But it's a really fun tool, and I'm going to be using it quite a bit on the flooring. My flooring is white oak, and it is really gnarly white oak. It is number 2 common, so there's a lot of knots, a lot of twisting grain, a lot of figure, and planing it is going to be a pain. I'm going to have this plane set up really finely, and yeah, it's going to be tight. So I'm going to be using the cabinet scraper a lot and probably doing a good majority of the floor with the cabinet scraper. For surfaces like that, it's very fast, very efficient, and works very well. Almost no tear out, so yeah. But yes, I do have several videos on that, so feel free to look those up. Make from Brooklyn. Ah, my thing just jumped. I hate that when I scroll up too high, it bounces around. Sorry if I yell. Make Brooklyn. Question: have you tried to sharpen a file or rasp? No. There are videos out there on sharpening your files, but they are actually cleaning it. They are not sharpening it. Like you'll put them in a bath of vinegar or something of that nature. They will work better because the debris on the outside has been cleaned off. They are not actually being sharpened. So yes, cleaning them is very useful. A quick bath in vinegar, regular use with a card file will keep them clean, and they will work better after that. But actually sharpening them, because the steel has been hardened, they really can't be just sharpened. Yeah, you can anneal it and then recreate them, but at that point, that's just too much work. So yeah, I really hate it when people call it sharpening the file or rasp, because it kind of gives the idea that you're putting a new edge on it, like you're sharpening a chisel or sharpening a plane. You're cleaning them. They will work better, yes, but it's not actually sharpening. Jason Miller asks, regarding finish or for hand tool handles, you use BLO and Paste Wax. Others use half and half BLO and Mineral Spirits. What are the advantages of each? There are thousands of different things that people will use, from shellac and shellac mixtures and shellac and BLO and all sorts of different things that you can put together. Putting Mineral Spirits in BLO thins it out. People say that it helps it absorb further into the wood. I haven't noticed that. I tend not to do that because it seems to dry faster, but the oil itself still takes the same amount of time to dry as without the Mineral Spirits. So I don't do it because I kind of view it as an extra step that's kind of pointless. I don't use any shellac in my mixes because I don't like to put a surface on there. I'd rather reapply the paste wax occasionally. But everyone has their own different idea. So everyone has their own thought, their own way of doing it. And that's what makes this sport great, is that there are 1,000 ways to do everything. And there is no right way. There is no wrong way. You can have fun with it. So the best answer I can give you is experiment, see what you like. If you like it, fantastic, keep doing it. If you don't, try something new. Lemongrasspicker asks again, meant to say, how much does your workbench weigh? Autocorrect killed it. Yeah, autocorrect likes to do that. I actually haven't weighed my new bench. I'm guessing it's around 350 pounds. It's pretty hefty, but I haven't actually weighed it, so I probably should do that sometime. I'm guessing it's around 350. My old workbench only weighs about 200 to 250 because it's all pine. But I do store things underneath my bench, and that adds far more weight to it. Also, I've put little rubber feet underneath the bench, and that keeps it from sliding around as much. because I had a problem with that right off the bat, particularly with this bench, because it was a hard floor, a hard wood leg on a cement floor. So even with the 300 pounds plus, there wasn't a whole lot of friction because it was a very hard surface on a very hard surface. So I put a small amount of rubber underneath each foot to keep it from sliding around. Because if it slides about 2 to 3 inches in any direction, then it becomes tippy, because then it's on a different surface because my floor is so uneven. Because my legs are actually balanced out for that specific spot on the floor. Curt Ziegler, do you ever finish with CA glue? Looking for something durable as possible for a wood ring. I used to use CA glue for turning. As I don't currently have a lathe. Sorry, my nose is like plugged up. I haven't done it in a long time. I don't know if I could do it on a spring pole lathe. That would be fun. I'm gonna have to try that, because you have the reverse thing. So as long as your rag is ready to run in both directions, it should work. But I don't know. I haven't tried that. That sounds like a great idea. I have to play with that. Yeah. As to other things, other finishes, I don't use CA glue for other regular finishes. Just have never experimented with it. I think the only thing I've ever used it on are pins or small turned projects, but I haven't tried it off of the lathe. I might have to sometime. Bonjour from France. Kevin Gullen. Good to have you here, man. Reading down, trying to find the questions here. That's the best possible way to stabilize first thing coat with CA. Wow, a lot of chat going on. This is kind of cool. What time is it at home? Right now it is 12:20 here. What do you do? What's the best plane to use, and why is it the Stanley No. 2? What is the best plane to use, and why is it the Stanley No. 2? This is from Handtool Rescue. And if you haven't seen Handtool Rescue's channel, definitely go check it out. He's got some really cool things up there. One of my favorites. I try and watch whenever he posts something. Why is it the No. 2? I actually do not have a No. 2. I don't have a No. 1. I don't have a No. 2. So I've never used a No. 2. One of these days I want to try it, but I haven't. I use all my planes. I don't like a preferred one. I think for general use, the one I probably grab the most is my 4.5. I like the 4.5. It's got a good weight. It's got a good balance. It rides around things. I like that. But I've wanted a No. 2 for a while. I just haven't had the money to spring for one. I've created a handsaw guide with magnets. I've created a handsaw guide with magnets and still can't cut a 2x4 or 2x6 perfectly square. Any tips? This is from Trulian. I do not like using guides because they teach you to rely on the guide, and I would much prefer to rely on myself and my own experience. The only way to really learn that is to do it, and the more experience you get, and the better you will get at it. Now, perfectly square, that is an interesting question. What is perfectly square? In most people's minds, perfectly square means you hold it up to a square and you don't see the light. But in woodworking terms, that is way, 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 way too square. Unless you are an absolute perfectionist, that's what machinists do. For most uses, I'm good off the saw, but if I hold a square up to it, I'm probably going to have a 16th inch gap one spot or another on a 2x6. That's not a problem. Most of the time, I get it close with the saw, and then I take it over to the shooting board and clean it up. And the shooting board gives you a nice clean edge. The plane smooths it out and gives you a beautiful surface. And then with the shooting board, you know that it is perfectly square. And that's, I actually don't even check it to see if it's square after the shooting board because I trust the shooting board. So I don't know what you are saying as in perfectly square. If it is something that's minute that, you know, I don't have a problem with, then I would say, you know, use a shooting board. If you're off by like a 1/4 inch over the course of a 2x6, then it comes down to sawing technique. If you find yourself always veering the same direction with the saw, it's probably because you have too much set on one side of the saw. And you can clean that up by either resetting the teeth or stoning the side. In other words, taking a sharpening stone and running it down the side you're turning towards 2 or 3 times to take off a little bit of set on that side. If you find yourself veering different directions each time, that's about technique. And there are certain things you can do to improve it with your stance, keeping your arm and your hand and your shoulder all in line, a light swing, not grasping the saw too hard. But really, the only way to get better at that is to do more. And you will find the more you do it, the easier it becomes and the easier you can stay on the line. So I hope that answered your question. If not, let me know. If you have cool connections, how do you stay connected to woodworkers in your local area? Oh, if you have local connections. Wow, I read that wrong. This is from Tom Guthrie. I really don't know many local woodworkers around here. There is a local turning club that kind of meets occasionally. There is a local carving club that I've been to a couple times, but it's not as much my thing. But there is no local woodworking club. There's one up in Madison about an hour away. There's a couple in Chicago about an hour and a half away. And I've wanted to get into those, but I haven't. I just don't know many people locally. I've met a couple. I have one friend who's, you know, about 5-6 minutes away that does woodworking, but yeah, I don't know many around here. And I really don't know what to tell you because I spend most of my time online, so I don't actively seek out most local people. But yeah, maybe I should work on that. So sorry, I can't answer your question that well on that one. I'm building a couple of pull-out spice rack things about 6 inches wide and about 16 inches high to go beside the microwave over the stove, which will stay stable with the heat. And what finish? Which wood will stay stable. This is from Kieran Buchanan. Sorry. Let's see. This is at 28. Yeah. Often the harder the wood, the more it will stay stable, because the harder the wood, the more difficult it is for water to come in and go out. So a good hard wood generally will stay stable. It has more to do with the wood grain you want. You want something that's straight grained. You want it quarter sawn, and if at all possible, rift sawn will be better than flat sawn. And it's something you just gotta be very careful about in your choice of wood, and that will be far more important than what wood species do you use. Is how stable is the cut of wood. Is it a quarter sawn wood? It will be far more stable. Over the stove, you're going to be worrying about drying. So you're going to be worried about it generally getting smaller. Excuse me. Oh, my nose is plugged. Unless you're steaming something there, but it's generally going to dry faster. So usually if you make it on the tight side, in other words, you make it slightly big, so it's on the tight side, as the stove heats up, it will dry it out and shrink it. Whereas if you make it slightly on the small side, the stove will make it even smaller. So that's something to think about. Yeah, but you know, if you go with a hardwood like a maple, a quarter sawn maple would be a very, very stable wood that will not move much at all. And especially in small things like that, you're talking, you know, the 6-inch spice rack. That's not going to have that much space. You need to have a lot of space to see a decent amount of movement. And over time, especially with it being constantly dried out by the stove, it will reach a fairly close equilibrium that you won't see much movement, at least nothing measurable. So hope that answered your question. If not, let me know. You should definitely check. Have you ever made a timbre door for a tool cabinet? Sorry, I don't know what a timbre door is, so I guess not. I'll have to look that up. Thank you. Oh, have you thought about a magnetic knife rack for files and rasps? Yes, I have thought about a magnetic file rack. This is from Ryan Olson. I am not a fan of magnetic racks. I don't know why either. You know, I've seen a lot of people who have the magnetic racks for their chisels, and it looks cool, especially if you put a thin wood veneer over it so you don't see the magnet. But I don't know. I don't like it. Personal choice. So I've thought about it, but no, I don't want to do that. It would be a good choice, though. It would protect the rasps and file. And if you like it, then fantastic. But that's not me. So, are there any big projects like your bench you're looking to build? Yes, I have a very long list of big projects that I want to build. This is from, I'm sorry, I like the name. Number one, I need to finish the kitchen. Number two, I need to finish the shop storage. I need to make a few more racks. Number three, I have to make that chisel box. I have a couple other little projects that I have to get done. And then there's a whole bunch of little Christmas projects that have to get done. And my list is just so jam-packed right now that I can't fit many things in there. But I am going to be building a new dining room table, a 10-foot long, massive dining room table. I'm hoping to do that in February, but we'll see. I might be able to get it sooner. I want to build a small, like, desk height table that's only about 18 inches deep that will go up against the wall for kids to do their homework on. Possibly building an island for the kitchen. I do want to build a bed sometime soon. I want to build a bench that I can use for shoe storage underneath. So I have a lot of larger projects that I want to do. It's finding the time to get them and fit them into the schedule. And I have a lot of other priorities right now that I just have to get to. So they are coming, just not right now, which really kind of hurts because I want to do them. How do you estimate board feet for a project, and how much waste do you factor in? I generally, most of my projects, I do not calculate. I do not measure. I try to stock far more wood than I need for any particular project. I like to buy large bulk lots of like 400, 500 board feet and just pull from that lot as I go. And I kind of get an idea over time that I want to build this project and it's going to take, 3 or 4 boards out of there. So I don't actually calculate ahead of time how many board feet it's going to need or how much waste I'm going to have. I don't waste my time with that. But that's me. There are a lot of people out there who love to calculate that thing, and I'm not one of them. I have done that with a few things, like some of my racks I've planned out beforehand. But even then, I'm not really thinking about how much waste. The only reason for me calculating how many board feet do I have is so I can put it on the sheet that I give out with the plans. So yeah, I don't think about that much. I try and have more on hand than I need so that I can build any particular project. If I have a big project coming on, like the island that I want to make, let's say I want to make that out of hickory to match the cabinets that we're getting. I will look at it and I'll say, a dresser is usually like 100 to 150 board feet. So I'll probably go and buy 300 board feet somewhere of hickory. And I'll just pull from that stack. So that's my range of calculating. What saw do you use for dados and such? Carcass? If so, which one would you suggest? This is from Shane Fitzhenry. I use whatever saw I want to use. I don't like using the names of saws as much, because carcass and a tenon saw, and they get confusing to a lot of people, because several people have different names for them. And if I had a school that I taught at, I would use the names because I would define the names. But taking the time to define the name for everything is different. For a dado. A dado is going across the grain, so I would be using a crosscut saw, or a saw with a crosscut file on the teeth. I would then use it, well, depending upon how I'm going to be cutting it. If I'm cutting it up against a fence, I want to use something where the handle is up high enough and there's enough teeth underneath the handle so that I'm not running into the fence. In which case, then I would probably be using my larger carcass saw, or I might be using my kerfing plane. Actually, no, my kerfing plane has a rip cut on it, so I wouldn't want to be putting that through that. So yeah, I'd probably be using a larger carcass saw, making sure that the handle is up high enough that there's enough teeth to run along the fence. So I hope that answers your question. If not, let me know. Let me add this to the list. 0. Sorry. Have you ever considered doing small private classes? From Michael Scott. I think you asked that a little bit earlier. Yeah, I want to. I would like to. I don't know if I would want to like do a class as much as hang out with people and build something. I think that's a lot of fun, and I'd like to do that. I have talked with a couple schools in the area about doing some classes. I've had one that's asked me to come do something. I don't know if I want to do that. I've taught a class at a local rockler once, and they are fun. I like doing them, but I prefer video. I'm not as much of a people person, which is kind of why I'm behind the camera. Yeah, hope that answers your question. I'm fixing to start building a dining table out of 1.5 inch thick ash, and I'm wanting to use tight bond hide glue. Will it be strong enough to hold it together? Cody Bryant. Yeah, that's good glue. I trust it just as much as I do, the tight bond PVA glue. It is a good glue. The only reason I don't use it on most projects is I have a lot of PVA glue, so I use that. If it's something I can see in the future where I want to take apart, I use the hide glue, because you can heat it up and take it apart, although it takes a lot of heat to do that. I think the only thing I would say is make sure that all your joints have a good clean fit. The hide glue does have a little bit more of a thickness to it, so it can fill a little bit more of a gap. But if you have like two boards jointed together, I wouldn't do a sprung joint with them, or I would do a very, very light sprung joint. I just don't like building tension into the board. So yeah, it would work great. Hope that answers your question. 37. Yeah, and if any of you are watching and want to see down below, I have all of the questions with timestamps, which is what I'm currently working on, adding a timestamp to all of these. It's not on there. After I close this out, I will add it. So if you're watching it live, you can't see it now. Sorry. That flooring is going to look incredible. Yes, I am so looking forward to that flooring. It is. Yeah, I'm hoping I can get it done today. It's going to be a lot of work, but I'm looking forward to it. Do you have any experience doing lumber or logs you have been given for harvest or harvested yourself? I have done some. I actually have a friend with a chainsaw mill, and a year and a half ago, or actually a little bit more, 2 years from February, we cut down a tree in his yard, and it was elm, and I have 3 slabs here of it that are 2 inches by 10 foot long by about 20 inches wide, and those will become my dining table eventually. I love working. I love being able to build something and be able to point out, hey, that's the stump where this came from. I like that. I do a lot from firewood. I like working with simple firewood and playing with that. It's fun to know more of the history than I bought it from the lumber yard. I like that. Have you ever worked with Obichek? I'm guessing that's a type of wood. No, I have not. Sounds like a fun one. I'll have to look it up. Thanks. That was from Anoka. Sorry, man. I'm not even going to attempt that one. I'm bad with them how they come. Have you ever used you? And if have you ever used you? And if yes, did you like it? What did you make with it? What did you make? This is from Woodwork Links. No, I have never used you. There are a lot of woods out there I have never used, and I might someday if I ever get my hands on a piece of it. That up. Yeah, I have not used it. I would have to look it up to tell you what it would feel like, but I don't know. In regards to vintage Irwin auger bits, do you use yours for draw boring and cut your own dowels to fit, or do you use regular bits with a drill and store your bought dowels? No, I generally, it depends on the dowel. If I'm doing like a square head, I'll make my own dowels. Most of the time, I'm just using a store-bought dowel. And I have a large selection of antique auger bits. Some of them are exactly the size they say. Some are a little smaller than the size they say. Some are a little larger than the size they say. And so you get to know the bits, and you get to know which ones are large, which ones are small, which ones are going to give you a little bit of play, which ones are not. And that's one of the things I love about the old bits is that in our current society, we are very much on very specific sizes. There's that machinist manufacturing idea that was not as common in the past. And when someone would say this is a half-inch bit, it might be off by a couple hundredths one way or the other. Who cares? It cuts kind of close to a half-inch hole. Most of the time, you would then build a dowel to fit the hole. But if I'm doing a drawboard hole, I want a little bit of slop, making it just a little bit easier. And so I will choose one that's slightly larger. If I'm driving a dowel and I want it to be really tight, then I will choose a bit that is a smaller size and really pound it down in there. And so I like having that large collection. So I have like probably 5 or 6 sets worth of bits lying around my shop. Some of them are sharp, some of them aren't. And so I'll find one and use calipers to find out exactly what size it is. And then I can kind of play with it. So yeah, I don't use the store-bought drill bits much at all. I really like auger bits. They are fun to play with. Thanks for your videos you did with your daughter. My daughter's 6 months and helping me make. Oh, I love working with kids in the shop. I do. That's why I have my bench. Well, I need to clean it off because it's now become the drop zone. But I like having the kids in here just playing around. And that's really one of the reasons why I became a hand tool guy, is being able to have the kids run around the shop. Do you plan on turning seasoned or green wood on your pole lathe? A little of both. Different things for different uses. I like working with green wood. It's very simple. It's very easy, especially with the lathe. But it's kind of nice to work with something seasoned and it's not going to change its shape. Oh man, my nose is plugged. I'm sorry, you're probably tired of me saying that. So a little of both. I will be working with whatever I have on hand. I don't often pick wood for the project. I pick a project and then find something I have in the shop that works with it. So I don't have a whole lot of green wood, but I will probably be doing several videos with particularly green wood. I would like to do a Windsor chair sometime and do that completely from the log. I think that would be kind of fun. But I will be doing a lot with seasoned firewood, as it's already been sitting outside for several years and drying, so I can bring it in and chop it up and throw it on the lathe, and that's kind of fun. A little bit more difficult, but still fun. What's your FTP? I don't know what FTP is. I should know. Sorry. If you bought a brand new router plane, which would you buy? This is from Make by Laurent. Sorry. I'm not having a good day with that. I would probably, personally, I really like the Veritas. I like that they have a little bit more customization to them. They have a little bit more of the functionality. I like that mindset of Veritas, is that they're not stuck with the historical shape. But let me tell you, the Lie-Nielsen router plane is gorgeous and a lot of fun. I do like, oh, it's going to bug me now. I can't remember the names. They made a new one that was rectangular, and they only make certain runs of them. They're about to make another one run. And oh, it's going to kill me. I can't remember their name now. I'll remember it as soon as I'm done here. But I really, really like theirs. It's kind of a fun one. Yeah, sorry, I can't remember their name now. Someone's going to remind me in the chat down here. But they make a brass base. It's rectangular. It's about this big. And you can move the bit around to different points on it. And it's a really cool router plane. I have handsaws. Cut with the saw and then take it to the shooting board, as mentioning to cutting a square board. So what you said, funny, that's what I do, but I thought I should shoot for better. Thanks for the answer. No, a shooting board is cleaning up. I'm now to the point where I can cut basically right down a line, but I still try and stay a little ways away from the line, and then I'll clean up on the shooting board. If I really need that precise angle, the shooting board is the tool for it. The saw is, I don't usually live right off of the saw. I like to shoot it up. I like to clean it up with a plane. Even with the smoother Japanese finish, I still like to shoot it on the shooting board. So yeah, if you're still cleaning up on the shooting board, that's fine. That's not a problem at all. That's what it's there for, and it does a great work with it. Does the odor of BLO go through your house? If I use in my shop, I can smell it through the house for days, and my wife is not a fan. I honestly cannot smell much at all. When I'm using the BLO, I can smell it, but 30 minutes later, I cannot smell it. That's that's me. My wife, who has a better sense of smell, only complains about it when she comes in the shop and I'm actually doing something. But my shop does not actually connect to the HVA system in our house. So if my door is closed, it's a sealed compartment basically. There is no cold air and heat exchange in the room, so it's not being forced through there. So that might be an answer to you. And a lot of people really complain about the smell of BLO. I actually like the smell of it. I find it brings back good memories, and I really enjoy it. So I'm probably not the best person to answer that question because I'm addicted to it. Do you believe it would be difficult to make a drop-down table for? I think this is the question I asked it earlier. I would like to know what you mean by a drop-down table. But yeah. Question for you for your rasp and file storage. I have considered making it out of wood, but in a sterile. In the style of a knife holder, like what you see in a kitchen. So that all the files would be in the holder at an angle. Yeah, that's. If I do make it out of wood, it would be something very similar to that. Well, what I would actually do is I'd make, like my chisel holder, that bar with all the slots in it. And then I would mount all those bars at an angle as opposed to having a block and putting a whole bunch of angled holes into it. And that way, then I could have, when I'm doing my rasp work, I can bring the bar of rasps down. If I'm doing my file work, I can bring a bar of file. Or maybe I'll actually organize them by shape so that I can have all of my oval rasps and files together. If I do make it out of wood, that's probably the way I'll do it. So yeah, thanks for that, Scott. And I hope you saw the question that you asked me a week or so ago. I put this first here, so if that makes sense, Scott. Let me add this too before I forget. Pearson. Ooh, space. Have you considered doing a type of board game like checkerboard with hand tools? Yes, actually, that's on my list. I have a couple of games that I want to make. One, I would like to make a full chess set and actually carve the pieces. I think that would be a lot of fun. I also want to make. You've seen the old computer game. It's like 17 years old. It was when I was in college. You'd have these tanks that would shoot back and forth at each other. And I'd like to make something like that in reality, where you can actually change the settings on this launcher that fires these little blocks. And so it'd be like a wooden spring, and you'd be able to adjust how far back you pull it, and then at what angle it is set so that it can shoot at different arcs. And I thought that would be a lot of fun to make. So yeah, maybe someday. That was from BurlyWoodWorks. I like that name, BurlyWoodWorks. Sounds like manly. What's your favorite wood to work with? White oak. White oak. It's not the easiest. It is a very, very hard wood for hand tools. It is very brittle. It is very gnarly. It is annoying to work with, but I love how it comes out, and so that's why I work with white oak. That, and I can usually get white oak at a decent price around here. I can usually find someone who's cleaning out their garage and has 400 board feet of it, or someone who can trade for. I make something for them, and I like white oak. It's just a beautiful thing when it's done. It's a challenge, but it's a lot of fun. How much would a woodwright work if a woodwright could work wood? Hey, I can write work. I can't talk. Thanks, Mike Brooklyn. What advice can you give to buying an antique hand planes and finding out about the company that makes them and when the engraved is faded? With the Sargent or Stanley or Union, there are several good information sites online where you can look at them and they will tell you what type they are or when that type was made. And so a lot of times they'll be like, what's the size of the knob? Are there any patent numbers here or there? What are, is there a ring in this spot? And so you just kind of go down through the list and you can figure out when it's made. For a lot of the other companies, the only way to do it is, I have a whole list of people that I contact that are collectors of a particular type, and they know that particular company inside and out, and I can send them pictures of what I have, and they'll be like, oh yeah, that was from like 1945, and this company made it, and they had this problem when they made that, so they changed it in the next one. So knowing that group of information that group of people is great. Look up the Midwest Tool Collectors Association. And they will help you out greatly. If you can go to one of their local meets, take it along, and there are people there who collect that particular tool, and they will tell you everything about it. A great group of people. Midwest Tool Collectors Association, mwtca.org. I love what the Midwest Tool Collectors does. I'm getting close to the end here, so if anyone has any questions, feel free to throw them in there, and I'll try and get to what I have before we close out. Yeah. Also, along that list, the hand tool group, Unplugged Woodworkers group on Facebook is a good one. Putting it up there, you usually get a lot of people who will say, "Oh yeah, that's this." But there's several other hand tool forums that do that. Question: when gluing up panels after jointing the edge on the Douglas fir I'm using, I get very glassy finish. Should I rough it up a bit for gluing? You'll get people who will say both ways. Yes, you should rough it up. No, you shouldn't rough it up. For PVA glue, doesn't matter. It will not change. It's one way or the other. If you're using a hide glue, that soaks into the wood more, and it will soak in a little bit more if it has been sanded. The sand that fills the pore, the dust that fills the pore actually works as a what's that word where you have the straw that sucks water up into it? A capillary action, and it'll slowly pull it back in further. Whereas if you plane it, it's so smooth and the pores are large enough that it'll just sit on top. So for PVA glue, not much of a difference. If I was using a hide glue, I would probably just hit it with a quick like 220 grit, just one pass to rough it just a hair. So hope that answers your question. Nope, let me add that over here. Sorry. Let's see who's next on the list. Add this before I forget. 55. Oh shoot, I just missed it. Where'd it go? Ah, there we are. Sorry, trying to find out where we're at. I just made my first mallet and went to finish it with BLO. Should I also put it on the friction plated part of the handle? Yeah, for BLO, I put it in there. I don't paste wax that. I will wait until I assemble the whole thing and then paste wax it. But the BLO will soak in and not cause a problem as it goes in. So that's, yeah, don't worry about that. I wait until I assemble it all, and then I can add the paste wax to it. And then as you use it for the first month or so, the head will slowly slide up the handle a little bit. And so I add a little bit of paste wax in that spot as well. But I add BLO to the entire thing so that when it does actually slide up, you don't have that ring just underneath the mallet that's a different color. So yeah, good question. Oh, that was from Rico Rupp. Hope I'm saying that right. That's 56. Ah, I'm falling behind in this. Sorry. I don't mind the smell either. My shop is on the HVAC, so I'm sure that's what's pumping around. Yeah. If you have a cold air return in your room, it's going to be sucking air out of that room and pumping it everywhere in the house. Question: if I clean rust and such off a plane or saw, what do I coat the metal with to keep it rust free? Oil, and just about any oil. I know some people that use olive oil. I know some people that use mineral oil. Some people use 3-in-1 oil. Some people use car oil. Just about any oil will keep the oxidation from down. And I try, and like every 6 months or so, and I'll just go through my shop. I'll take 10-15 minutes and just take an oil rag and wipe everything down quickly. I like to use the Paul Sellers can of oil as well, and wipe things down with that. I don't use that as much for lubrication of the planes, but I do use it for wiping down surfaces and keeping the oil, keeping the rust off. 58. What state are you in? I am in Rockford, Illinois. So I'm at the very top of the state, about 3 miles away from Wisconsin. And sometimes wish I was in Wisconsin, but I like where I'm at. It's a good place. Currently, I'm working on a pinball machine for a contest. The base floor is made from 1/4-inch plywood. I need to attach legs. Do you have any suggestions on attaching legs without drilling the base? I guess I don't know what you're asking about, BurlyWoodWorks. I'd have to see more about that. Usually with 1/4-inch plywood, you have to have something that supports it. So you have a rail that it sits on, and that rail then will connect into the legs. And so the legs are attached to the rail, and then the base is then attached to the rails. Hope that answers your question. But if not, yeah, feel free to send me some pictures and I can look at it. For making food-safe tools, spoons, cutting boards, do you know of any woods to be careful of? Any finishes-based mineral oil you'd recommend? there are people who are going to get really bent out of shape by this, and the idea of what is food safe and what is not food safe is something that I try to stay away from, because there are the zealots out there who say that wood itself is not food safe, or only specific woods are food safe, or that you have to bleach all your wood first, and most domestic woods are not going to be a problem at all. I even know a lot of people will say, "Oh, don't use walnut." I don't have a problem using walnut. Walnut is fine. I would stay away from pallet wood. But even then, if it's a good clean pallet, you know where it's from, then I don't have a problem with it. That's my thing. As to mineral oil itself is a good finish, other than the fact that mineral oil does not dry, and so you have to constantly be reapplying mineral oil. Shellac is food safe once it dries. It's a natural, it's literally bug secretion. It's fine. I use BLO in mine. I have a natural BLO that I make, and it works great. If you want something made, General Finish's salad bowl finish is they list it as food safe, so there you go. I would say, unless this is something that really bothers you, don't get bent out of shape over it. I don't have much problem with it, but I guess I'm not the best person to ask because of that. So that was from and in. I don't know where the words are in that one. Sorry. And that was at 010000. Oh, we're over an hour. Look at that. Let me hit a couple more and then I'll get out. Have you found after soaking your saws in vinegar and water that they turn black? Yes, and you have to sand that off. And that's from the duck. Vinegar will, the outside layer of metal will turn black, and that allows it to come off easier. I'll either use a wire brush or sanding pad to take that off. BurlyWoodWorks, yeah, feel free to send me an email and I'll take a look at it. Water locks is food safe once solvents have evaporated. Yeah, most finishes are food safe once they've evaporated. They don't contain things that are, I honestly don't have a problem with like Minwax wipe on poly once it has evaporated. I know a lot of people are going to be like, I don't have a problem with it. Whatever, each their own though. Yes, I did. So that's about it. I guess I've reached all the end. So thank you all for coming. If you do have any questions or ideas, feel free to email me or send me a message. I'd love to hear those. And I'm looking forward to doing this about once a month. So this has been a lot of fun, guys. Thank you for everyone who's come on. And until next time, have a wonderful day.